I'm Taylor Ladd, Senior Planner for the Town of Hilton Head Island and Project Manager for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan Initiative. Today, I will be presenting an update about the master plan process, where we've been and where we're going next. And this includes some very exciting opportunities for you guys to all continue to participate in the planning process. After a brief presentation, we'll conduct some live polling to give you all an opportunity to weigh in on some Parks and Rec topics. We have lots of questions to cover, so it'll take about 20 minutes to get through them. At any time, please start to input your questions using the question widget on your screen. And if you're watching us live on Facebook, please definitely submit your questions in the comments feed. We can track those as well, because after the polling segment of this meeting, we'll conduct a Q&A and have some closing remarks. And by the way, on Facebook, I understand at this point, if you're watching live there, you're not going to be able to see the poll actually, but I will be reading through the questions and giving the response options. So we will share on Facebook in the comments a link to register for this meeting so that you can hop in and participate in the poll if you would like. Okay, with that, we will get started. The town's overarching Parks and Recreation Master Plan is a multi-step process. In August 2019, the town hired Los Design to prepare a Parks and Rec Master Plan for Hilton Head Island. Los Design worked with town staff, the Parks and Rec Commission, and our planned Parks and Recreation Task Group in the island community to develop this report. After an extensive community engagement period and professional assessment, Part 1 of the master plan was presented to the Parks and Rec Commission in July and adopted by Town Council on October 6th. This part of the plan delivered by Los Design is an informative and data-driven analysis that serves as a starting point for a larger process that entails planning and development for our Parks and Recreation system. Adoption of this document by Town Council is a very exciting step for our effort. So the project that the consultant worked on with us includes recommendations for improvements to existing parks like Green Shell Playground shown here, beach parks, and recommendations for new park construction. Our consultant evaluated the island's 64-mile multi-use pathway network that includes bike ped facilities in our pathways, and did an extensive review of our sports facilities, maintenance and operations, park amenities like bathroom buildings and playgrounds, recreation programming, interpretation and education, with an extensive review of the Island Recreation Association, who is the town's partner rec provider. Part 1 lays the groundwork and provides research that is integral to taking the next steps towards progress for Parks and Recreation. Part 2 is how this information was incorporated into the Parks and Rec element of our plan, the town's new 20-year comprehensive plan, which was adopted this week. Out of this part of the process, we have a vision for Parks and Recreation and integration of the findings from Part 1, such as the parks gap analysis shown here on the left. The Parks and Recreation Task Group worked on goals and strategies about community value, best-in-class facilities and programs, programming, water, pathways, sports, funding, and accessibility. Finally, our plan includes the initial and final recommendations from Part 1. Upon analysis of the findings from Part 1 and hearing back from the community about the results of the study that the consultant conducted, staff identified town action items to be considered in addition to the consultant's recommendations. And these action items and recommendations are in areas of existing and proposed parks, recreation facilities, programming, funding, maintenance, and operations. So now that we have this research and recommendations for our island's parks and rec system, what comes next? Earlier this month, we launched part 3 of the town's Parks and Rec Master Plan initiative. In this part of the process, we're working with the community and stakeholders to prioritize the wealth of recommendations and action items that have been generated so far. We're also looking to hear from you about the proposed programming for the 3 major parks that Part 1 recommended as our first priority for major park development. This includes Chaplain Community Park, Crossings Park, and the Mid-Island Track, which is located on the town-owned portion of the Old Planters Row Golf Course near Port Royal. This one will be a brand new community park for our island. And now, how will we do this? Well, first, we have Town Council support. In September, our council passed a resolution authorizing staff to move forward with recommendations per the Parks and Rec Master Plan initiative and to start planning and identifying funding sources. So how can you participate? Well, we have exciting opportunities to get this process in motion. Given the current norm, we're trying to offer multiple types of opportunities for each of you to join the conversation. First, we've been hosting a survey since last week on Open Town Hall. The survey has lots of questions about the 3 parks and your preferences for prioritizing other recommendations. Staff, second, we're holding these virtual town hall meetings like the one today, and we have one more next Wednesday at 2 p.m. So tell your friends. But during this meeting, we're asking lots of questions that are very similar to what's on the survey. Finally, we're planning 2 open park days where staff will be set up in a park with maps and stickers so we can get outside together at a park and continue the conversation, socially distanced, of course. The first will be at Jarvis Creek Community Park on November 5th from 1 to 5 p.m. And the second open park day will be at Shelter Cove Community Park from 10 to 2 on November 12th. With all of this going on, we have a few ways for you to stay informed. Follow the town's Facebook page. We'll have posts on there about these events and updates. Subscribe to our e-subscription service if you haven't already. If you were receiving our plan newsletters and things like that, you're already included on this one. But we have been sending out a brief newsletter each week about the meetings and events and updates on how you can stay involved. Then finally, check out our landing page for the Parks and Rec Master Plan on the town's website. There's actually a link on this page for you to sign up for the newsletter. If you go to the main page, right there, you just type in your address. And the newsletters will be weekly through mid-November, and after that, we'll probably drop back to about a monthly update. But it's weekly because we have so much going on and we want to keep you guys updated. Then, of course, what happens next? Well, after all this information gathering from you all this fall, your input is going to help with the next level of conceptual planning for the 3 major parks this winter and spring. It will also give town officials guidance on where to focus our capital improvements plan and policy for parks and recreation over the next several years. So, staff is very excited for what's coming next for our Parks and Rec initiative, and I hope you guys are too. This concludes my update for now. And if you're multitasking, I invite you to come back to your screen because we're going to start the polling. All right. So again, if you're watching on Facebook, you're not going to see these questions, but I will be reading through them just so you can stay in the know of what we're talking about. So the first question, we want to know if you participated in the Parks and Rec Master Plan process up to this point. So were you involved when Los Design was working with us on this through one of the focus groups or interviews or open houses? Or did you participate in the Our Plan process? Did you come to meetings, give us public comment, things like that? Even if you've taken these polls before or answered questions on our survey, we would still love to hear from you. Okay, any last call? All right, so we have a majority of folks here today who did participate in the process so far. So welcome back. Thank you for being here. All right, so for those of you who did participate, how did you participate? So we just want to get a quick idea of what you did. You can only pick one answer, so if some of you Parks and Rec veterans on here have done a lot of this, then just pick one. On the town's survey online, you do have the option to select multiple options, but just for the sake of the poll. Okay, so we have Parks and Rec Commission meetings, Parks and Rec task group meetings. Did you go or participate or a member of those groups? Did you go to a focus group, take the survey, or attend an open house? It looks like we have kind of across the board participation, which is great. All right, last call. Okay, thank you so much. So we've got a little bit of everything on here. That's great. Okay, and we just have a little quick demographic question. We want to know if you reside on the island full-time, part-time, seasonally, if you live nearby, or if you're just a visitor. Okay, last call on this poll. It's like we got a collection of folks who live here year-round. Awesome. Oh, we have one person who lives nearby. Perfect. Well, we have lots of folks who come over the bridge to visit our parks, so it's good to get input from you guys as well. Okay, on our next poll here, got lots of options, but we've already talked about how the recommendation has been to uh, conduct some redevelopment and new development for Chaplain crossings and the Mid-Island Track. But there were lots of other recommendations, and certainly the Open Town Hall survey gets into more detail. But we're definitely interested to know, besides those three major parks, what sort of other recommendations would you be interested in seeing? So we have things like Barker Field, Bristol Sports Arena, Hilton Head Park, playgrounds for Green Shell Park and Jarvis Creek, the Betsy Dukowski Xeriscape Garden, and beach parks are all options. And this only scratches the surface, but we gauged this based on the feedback we've gotten on the online survey so far. Okay. Last call. All right, so we have a beach park answer, Hilton Head Park for new amenities, Bristol Sports Arena. Great, thank you. All right, so generally speaking, for the next question, which type of park amenity is most important to you? So these are things like sports facilities, water access, aquatics facilities, bike ped facilities, nature access and interpretation, culture and arts interpretation. Oh, all right. So we got some sports facilities and bike ped facilities. That's great. It seems very aligned with what we've been seeing so far. All right, so next question is what type of programming is most important to you? So do we need more programming to support sports tourism or non-sports for youth like art classes, non-sports for adults like cooking classes, more programming around arts and culture, or more programming around nature? Okay, last call voters. Thank you. So we have some votes for sports tourism, non-sports for adults, and arts and culture programming. Again, if you're just joining us on Facebook Live, we're doing some polling right now with our participants through the Blue Jeans meeting app. And you won't be able to see these questions come up on your screen on Facebook Live, so I'm reading them off. And we've shared a link in the comments if you'd like to hop on and join us. All right, so next we're going to have a few questions about the three park projects, starting with Chaplain Community Park. First, we just want to know generally how often you visit Chaplain Community Park. You go there almost daily, a few times a year, weekly, monthly, or hardly ever. And folks who are joining us on Facebook, please, if you have questions, type them in because we're tracking the comment feed on there. And for our participants, please ask questions anytime in the chat or the Q&A. Okay, ending the poll. So we have a mixed bag here of folks who go almost daily to a few times a year or rarely. That is quite all right. Let's see. So our next question is, if you go to the Chaplain Community Park, which amenity do you use most frequently? Chaplin's a pretty diverse park, and so there's a lot going on there, lots of options and things to do. We have dog park, tennis courts, ball fields, or do you just park there to go to the beach? We have a basketball, pickleball court, and playground. Okay, last call for votes. All right, I'm going to end the poll. So we have ball field users and folks who park there to go to the beach. Well, that's great. And so for Chaplain Community Park, which amenity would you most like to see at the new park? So what the consultants recommended is that we do a wholesale look at Chaplain Community Park and consider ways to redo it, refresh it. And it has been around for a while. It's served the community well, but it's time to do some updates. So we're going to be looking at a complete overhaul. And we're curious to know what you're interested in there. So more off-road pathways and boardwalks, turf fields, dog park, pickleball facility, tennis facility, sand volleyball courts, and many more things. So it'll end up being a combination of a sports park and community with community amenities. Okay, last call. And see, for this poll, we have off-road pathways and boardwalks, turf fields, and pickleball facility. All right, for our next question, we're going to move over to Crossings Park. And again, we just want to know generally how often you go there. Almost daily, weekly, monthly, a few times a year, or rarely. All right, last call for my poll takers. Okay, so we have almost daily down to a few times or rarely. Now, next question. There's a lot of amenities at Crossings Park, and we're curious to know that if you go there or when you go there, which of the amenities do you use? So it's primarily a softball, baseball field complex, but there's also a meadow, a multi-purpose kind of soccer field, pathways, playground, and some walking trails in the woods. Last call for votes. Okay, thank you. So we have some folks who use the ball fields, the soccer field, and the pathways. Great. All right, so in addition to the baseball and softball at Crossings Park, which of these amenities in this list would you most like to see added to the park? And we asked this because what came out of the review for Crossings was that it would be the ideal location on the island to consolidate our softball and baseball facilities for the community. So, but the suggestion was in order to make this an appealing park across the board and just not just a sports park, we wanted to add some community-based amenities to give folks who live nearby, there's lots of neighborhoods nearby, to give folks more things to do there. So we have things like pathway connections and boardwalks, general use turf field, dog park, new playground or splash pad. So things like this that just are fun for folks to do who live nearby. Okay, so last call for the poll. Thank you. All right, we have some votes for pathway connections and boardwalks or bike trails, new playground, and splash pad. Awesome. Moving on to the Mid-Island track. We have a list here of which of these typical park amenities would you most like to see at the new park. So playground, splash pad, dog park, multi-use pathways, event lawn or event pavilion. Mid-Island Tract has been identified as a opportunity to fill a need for a community park in the north part of the island. And so with that, we're going to be looking at offering a diverse range of things for folks to do and take advantage of its many kind of existing amenities as well as future things like for sports and community use. So we have a few questions here asking about different types of amenities that you might be interested in seeing there. Okay, last call for votes. So we have some interest in multi-use pathways and event lawn or event pavilion. That's a great plan because there's going to be a really nice one at Low Country Celebration Park, but it'd be really cool to balance that option to the north end of the island as well. Okay, for our next question, at the Mid-Island Track, which of these special use park amenities would you most like to see? So we have things like off-road pathways or nature trails for pedestrians and cyclists, fitness trail workout stations, general use turf field, bird watching areas, planted meadow, and a conservation area or outdoor classroom for education. Okay, last call for votes. Thank you. So a few votes for the off-road pathways or nature trails, general use turf field, and conservation area outdoor classroom. Okay, and our last question is the final one about Mid-Island Track. We want to know which of these active recreation facilities would you most like to see at the new park? Outdoor basketball, multi-purpose turf sports fields, disc golf or foot golf course, sand volleyball, bocce courts, or a pump track, which is a type of cycling facility. Okay, last call for votes. It's like we've got a multi-purpose turf sports field. And let us know in the chat if you're thinking a synthetic turf or natural turf, sand volleyball courts, and a pump track. Awesome. Okay, so that concludes our polling for this meeting. Thank you everyone who has joined us and participated. So now we're happy to open it up to questions. You can type your questions in the chat or in the question answer widget for the Blue Jeans app. As well, if you're on Facebook Live, you're welcome to type into the comment feed. Okay. Any questions? I'll give you a couple more seconds to think about that. Okay, so our Q&A monitor, do we have any questions? All right. Well, thank you everyone. We really appreciate it. My name is Taylor Ladd, and you're welcome to contact me over here at Town Hall if you think of anything later on that you'd like to ask. And we look forward to seeing you at one of our open park days and welcome you to come on to the town's website, the Open Town Hall portal, and take the full survey. I'd love to hear more from you. Thank you so much, and please have a great morning and a wonderful weekend. Bye.